Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We hope you guys are having a good day. Welcome to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I'm here with my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. How you doing today, babe?
I'm doing great this morning. And hello, everybody. Happy Mother's Day.
Yes, happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers that are in here. Happy Mother's Day to you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Do you feel different on this Mother's Day?
I feel like a tired mama.
You feel like a tired mama?
Yeah.
Well, you got your sleep, and that's good. I watched a TED Talk
hmm
where there was a guy who was talking about, I didn't know this, but he said literally not getting enough sleep can cause like significant illnesses and cancer and even disrupt your whole DNA. It was very persuasive. I encourage everybody to watch it. It really helped me understand like why sleep is so important.
Man, you're not a mama, so
Yeah,
sleep
yeah.
doesn't really come to mamas like that.
Well, you know what? I think that a good way to support mamas is to help mamas get sleep.
It's so true.
Yeah, that was one of my first jobs. Like when you and I first got together, it was I felt like my job was to be a guardian of your sleep, to make sure you could take a nap.
Yeah.
And I was real big on that because I was
hmm
like, no, no, you should not be sleep deprived. But anyway, hey Sachi, hey Brian and D Rivers. Yeah, well, happy Mother's Day to everybody. And before we even jump into our topic for today, I wanted to wish happy Mother's Day to my two mothers. First, I got my Mama Robin. That's what the children call her, and my mother is very special to me, obviously. And let me tell you about my mother, which is real interesting. I don't want to. I'm not going to politicize it, but right now there's a whole conversation about Roe versus Wade and all that, right? Which I'm not going to get into that. But my mother, you know, they told my mother that she shouldn't give birth to me. That that her life was going to be miserable and because she didn't have any help. My father, for whatever reason, it didn't work out, and my mother was in that hospital all by herself, and she chose to face up and have the bravery to give birth to me, and nobody was there. It was me, my mother, and a white nurse, and that's it.
hmm
And so when I think about me and my mother coming into the world, or me coming into the world by myself with my mother, with it just being me and her, and I picture her like waiting for her ride at the hospital with this little baby. I have so much admiration for the bravery that it took for her to make that choice. And I appreciate. So maybe it's maybe you could say my mom was pro-choice because she made the choice to keep me, and I appreciate that very much. And I love my mama, and I just have to. I'm going to acknowledge that to the day that I die, and I'm also going to acknowledge your mother, who is a wonderful lady. And she reminds me of Mama, my grandmother, who's in heaven right now, who's listening to this podcast because they have good heaven, they have good Wi-Fi in heaven, and so your Nana is also a second mother to me. So
And I think the supports that mom needs is just so critical. I think that's what a lot of okay, it all is politicized, of course, but it's just so ironic that some of the and I'm not really conservative or liberal to that extent, but I just find that uh, we're pro-choice, and that's based in religion, of course. But at the same time, want laws and legislation and just regular support for maternity leave and child care. Child care is so expensive. Good quality child care is just so it's there's just I think that the people who are pro-life and anti-abortion should also spend a lot of their time putting something in place to support moms in this country. It's pathetic. You go to any other country. My I had a friend who did a she did a teaching job in Australia, and she said a colleague of hers had a baby and came back 2 years later. She did not even return. So she was able to, with pay and support from the government of Australia and other supports through the university, she was able to stay home with her child for 2 years and before she came back to work. And so I'm just saying that like we do a piss poor job as a country supporting moms. And I know they have you have to have at least 6 weeks off from work. It doesn't even have to be with pay. So I think there's just a lot of barriers in place that would make a person want to decide to, I just can't have this baby.
Possibly. That's
Anyway,
true.
so I just wanted to make that point.
I can see that. Yeah. Okay. Well, everybody has their opinions on it.
That's true.
I'm just glad my mother gave
But that's
birth to
some
me.
of the problems. Like,
That's true.
I listened to the story about your mother, and I'm just like, she should have had way more support. And,
That's true. That's true. That's good. Well, she should have had my father. Like and the fact that he wasn't there when I was born, he could have made a decision to be there. So my feeling is like, I think that a lot of things just also started home. Um, I'm not a big fan of necessarily thinking the government should do the job of the parent. So I think that with fatherlessness, or for whatever reason, when the father's on around, I don't think kids are as well off without the dad.
You're so right. And I don't know what happened between them. Something clearly must have happened, but sometimes we need safety nets. We need safety nets.
Well, we
So
do.
what if, because my mom, her father died when she was 16.
Hmm.
And so what do? There's five of them, five little kids. And my mom's parents were married, and the father died, and her father died. And so you do have Social Security that steps in and at least offers some financial support to families who lose a father like that. So I mean, there's all sorts of scenarios, and I am in favor of social nets.
Yeah. Well,
Safety nets.
no safeness.
Yeah.
So let's do. So by the way, you're watching Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins, and this is where we decided to do a podcast together because we're two professors who believe in Black love and we like to talk to the Black community. So do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Just a reminder, this Saturday, Alicia and I are going to be in Chicago.
Sunday.
Sunday, sorry, this Sunday, May 15th. Thank you. May 15th. So if you want to join us in Chicago, you can go to boyceandalicia.com or you can actually go to boycewatkins.com. The information's on both places. So boyceandalicia.com, the URL's on the screen. All right, so let me.
Hold on. I just want to say I love day parties.
Yeah, it's
Let
gonna
me
be
tell
fun.
you, in my age, a day party is what's happening. Parties at night, I can't do it.
Oh well, I like
So
all the parties.
so day parties are great, and if you like day parties, come join us. We're gonna have a day party
Yeah, it's gonna
in
be fun.
Chicago.
It's gonna be very social, letting people meet each other, and also a chance to learn. I want to talk about generational wealth and legacy, and I know you want to talk about healthy relationships.
Yeah.
And I think that that's so. So you won't just have fun; you'll learn a lot. Oh, don't bring your kids though. This is not a family event. This is a more of a individual or couples, singles or couples. So adults only. So either you're a single adult or a couple adult. So don't. This is not a an event for kids. All right, so let me dive into something else here. First of all, I want to start off here with this too before we move forward. So this is Mother's Day. I want everybody. I want to do a Mother's Day shout out. So every single person in the chat, I want you to put the name of your mother or mother figure into the chat. Shout out your mama real quick. So Isabel and Jesse and Jerry and Nikki and B Morgans and Linda and DJ Charisma, Nicole Alpo, everybody else. Shout out the name of your mother. My mother is Robin, and Alicia's mother is Janice, aka Nana.
Nana.
So okay, we
JT.
got Tanya Cage. All right. Shout out the name of your mama, Josephine. All right. I see Ophelia, Joanne Scott. Is it Joan Scott? Joanne Scott. I'm sorry. Shirley May. Wow, that's such a country name. I love it. Shirley May. Shirley May Jenkins. I'm playing. I know that's probably not her last name, but that's a great name. I love it. Shirley. Or Shirley May Jones. Justine Jones. Her mom's Shirley May. Brenda Odette. That's Elizabeth's mom, but Jerry's mom was Beverly Sims. Dolly Awesome says Donna. I see Johanna for Cynthia. Glory Jean. Glory Jean. Black, we got the best names, don't we? Ida, Margaret, Corindy, Cynthia Cole, Devera. I think I knew it, Devera. Juanita Benson, Margaret Trusty, Ingrid, Beatrice, Thelma. Remember Good Times? What kind of name is Thelma? Well, what kind of name is Mad Dog?
My mama took one look at me and called
Call
me
me
Thelma.
Thelma.
Your mama took one look at you and called you Mad Dog.
There was a famous Good Times episode. Nora, Ollie Mae, June, Veronica, Eunice, Mother's Day to my mama Jessie and grandma Jessie, says Jessie Love. All right. Also, she's got Jessie, so she's a long line of Jessies. Nice. Margaret, Diane, that's Diane's mama. Aurelia, says Lorraine, and Woods, Dorothy May. Cynthia is Angel Evans' mama. Annette is Nicole's mama. Pauline is Larry's mama. Patricia, I'm sorry, I have to. I can't get through every single name because we should get to topics. But Patricia, RIP 2016. Well, don't worry, Reginald. She can hear you from heaven. They have good Wi-Fi in heaven. I have confirmed this. Mary Lee, Maji, Georgia May, says James Lee, Sherry Louise in Baltimore, Margaret Louise, Teresa. Is that Teresa or Tereska? Sandy, uh, let's see, Gertrude Ellis, Lily Mae, Cheryl, Elizabeth, Olivia, Richardson, Beatrice. Okay, so we named a few mamas. I'm sorry if I didn't get to name your mama. I just don't want to drag it on too long, but I really wanted to do that because I really think it's important for us to shout out the people that are responsible for our happiness and success. Now, the next topic I want to ask you about was, did you see that video? I put it up on my Instagram. I can't actually play it in this feed for whatever reason because of this app. But there was a video where a lady called in, and she called into a show, and she basically said that um her fiance, 32 years old, had a girlfriend or wife who died during childbirth 5 years ago. As a result, he has this 5 year old daughter, and she says the girl's very attached to her daddy, and I'm pregnant with his son. And I feel like my son won't be able to bond with his father because basically she'll get in the way of that. Also, seeing her reminds me of his ex, and it reminds him of his ex. All he does is he thinks about his ex, and I'd like to get rid of her. She literally says I'd like to send her to live with an aunt or maybe a nice couple that wants to adopt a child. What should I do? What was your thought when you heard that?
Well, listen, before I get into this, I mean, I know I've talked about this before, but I think it's just important not to judge,
Hmm.
because what she said is very, it can be very, it's really awful to hear, by the way. So I think it's just important. What I try to do when I listen to really sticky topics like this, I try to understand
Hmm.
instead of judging.
Right.
So I
Okay.
just want to say, understand and not judge is so important when you want to try to deconstruct a situation and try to tease everything out and try to figure out what's happening, because it's a dynamic between family members and between couples. It's all a dynamic, and everybody plays a role in the feelings and the thoughts and perspectives and all of those things that's important. So I want to say that first. Don't you agree, boys?
Yeah, I think understanding can help. I think an
Yeah.
explanation is very important, which
Mm.
an explanation can help you understand where they're coming from, but an explanation is not an excuse.
Yeah, so don't see it as, oh, making excuses for someone's behavior. You don't see it that way. But I think the first step in trying to figure out what's happening in certain scenarios, it's just better to just try to figure out how and why that dynamic is playing out between people.
Hmm.
So there's a heck of a dynamic there, right?
Well, the
In
first
this
thing,
relationship.
well, the first thing
Hmm.
I would recommend. Well, first thing I like the fact that she was honest. She was honest about
Okay.
not wanting the baby there, the little girl there, because she feels like it's going to get in the way of
Uh-huh.
of her situation and everything.
Okay.
I like the honesty, but the problem with the honesty is it's like confessing to a crime. Your sentence won't be as harsh, but you're still going to get punished. So I think that first step of honesty is I would say, does he know? Like, does he know how you feel?
Hmm.
Because I would want to know if I was about to marry a predator, basically. That's kind of what it is. It's like letting
Okay.
or an abuser, better yet, an abuser.
Oh, that sounds so
That no no no
judgmental,
no no. But
boys.
it sounds judgmental. But think about it. Imagine if you were gonna, or not you. Well, imagine a woman says, "I'm gonna marry a man," or a man says, "I'm about to marry a woman, and I'm really attracted to her daughter." And I want, you know what I mean? I think I might try to sleep with her or something. Well, you'd want the mother to know that this person, this abuser, is coming into the house. So I think for him, he's letting an emotional abuser into the home that's gonna abuse. his daughter, the lady's honest. She admitted, like, I can't help it. I'm not gonna treat her very well. I'm gonna be mean to her, like, because I don't like her. She reminds me of his ex. I want to get rid of her. Like, that's like, that makes me think about like infanticide. Where you have a step parent who truly despises or has contempt for the children. I don't know. I think that I'm not saying judge here, but think about it. If I had contempt for your children, you couldn't marry me. That'd be crazy.
That is crazy. So I just want to say, okay, let's look at it from this mom's perspective, this soon to be mother, soon to be wife. Let's try to see it from her perspective. What is she thinking? What she could be thinking is, when someone dies, it's like when someone dies, and it happens with sibling dynamics too. It's just that if someone dies, or if a sibling dies, or if like a former whoever dies, it's almost like you put the memory of that deceased person is way up on this pedestal.
Hmm.
Have you ever seen that dynamic where it's just
Yeah.
like nobody can say anything?
It's like Tupac. Like, no rapper can compare himself to Tupac.
Yeah, but Tupac didn't even make that much music,
He
and
really
maybe he
didn't.
would have, maybe he
Th-
would have fallen off,
There's
but
so
we
many.
don't
There's so
know.
many rappers. I was around in the Tupac era. There's so many rappers who are just as good as him. T.I.'s as good as Tupac. Jay-Z's as good as Tupac. A couple others have been as good. Eminem is as good as Tupac, especially when you talk about longevity and all this stuff. He exceeds Tupac in longevity because Tupac was famous, super famous for about 2 years.
Uh-huh.
You know, but yet you cannot compare yourself to Tupac. So I get it. It's the two.
Yeah,
We call it the Tupac effect.
the two. Okay, we're gonna talk the Tupac effect. So
All
it's
eyes
just
on me. Go ahead.
it's just like we don't know what's happening in that home. We don't know if if there's all these comparisons of her and this deceased person. May she
Mm.
rest in peace, love a
Yes.
soul, and all that. But the thing is that when you feel like you're getting, maybe, perhaps she feels like she's getting compared to this person who is also perfect, because dare we say anything negative about a deceased person? So,
Right.
I mean, I'm wondering if that dynamic is kind of playing out. Maybe there's some unresolved grief going on between the father and the daughter, and maybe they bonded over this grief. And maybe she feels like she's not included
Mm.
as a family member.
Mm.
Remember we taught that class about the drama free family, and we talked about, the perspective of everybody who plays a certain role in the
Mm.
family, and what, how that dynamic plays out, and how it can be a problem.
Mm.
So we don't know. I have a hunch that maybe that's what's happening, that maybe she just wants to be included. Maybe underneath all of that is resentment, of course, because how can you compare to a deceased person? You never can measure up. So maybe she just feels like there's no place for her in their relationship. Maybe she
Mm.
has tried to talk to the daughter and to have a relationship with this little girl. And of course, the relationship with the child is uh, basically based on what the bio parent says. So maybe she's so in love with this man, but when it comes to the daughter, he won't allow a bonding. He won't allow any sort of connection, because maybe he thinks it's an abomination to his, uh, I guess, I don't know, maybe they were married, to his deceased wife. So we don't know if that sort of dynamic is playing out for her.
Well, I would say, well, first of all, Alicia has a great curriculum on drama-free families and blended families. We did a whole weekend intensive on that, and I joined her and supported her. So if you go to coachingwithdralicia.com, you can actually take a look at it if that's of interest to you, if that helps you. And also, she does. I don't know if she has if you have room for clients, but
Okay.
yeah,
Oh gosh, I'm filling up here, but yeah, I have some space.
yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
feel free to visit coachingwithdralicia.com. So here's what I
I
am.
just wonder about that.
Yeah, I do get that, right? And I think it's like, it's almost like if I meet somebody who says I want to be a serial killer, right? There's a whole lot to unpack. There's a whole lot of understanding that could take place. There's a whole lot of reasons why the person might want to be a serial killer. But the first and most important task is you must protect people from the serial killer. Period. You got to protect people from the person that's going to do harm. So the first job, in my view, again, I'm not a therapist here, right? My job, first job, in my view, is to protect this innocent little daughter who just loves her daddy, who's already traumatized because her mama's gone. Protect her from this lady who's going to come in and do a Cinderella on her. Who's not going to treat her the
How do
same.
you know that?
Well, because she said it. Remember in the video, the lady said, "I won't treat them the same. I won't treat my son the same way I treat this little girl." So that's the first thing. You protect the daughter, but
Mm-hmm.
then you're right. You have to have compassion for the mother and why she feels the way she feels. And I completely get it. I get it. And I think that that's the thing. This is why, when there were a lot of people who gave me, some people on the internet who kind of gave me a hard time because I was getting married and you already had kids and all that. And I didn't care what they thought because I had made my own decision. But I did say to them, I said, yeah, if you're not about that step parent life or that bonus parent life, then don't do it.
Yeah, but
Don't do it because you have to have. Let me finish. You have to have a big heart. You got to really have the capacity to love children that are not your own. And I love being a bonus dad. I love it. I mean, I don't care what nobody says. I hear guys. I think I saw Kevin Samuels do a video where he said to a lady that because she had kids, no man's gonna want her. And I was like, I don't know if that's absolute makes sense because I think kids are fun. And on Father's Day, your kids give me Father's Day gifts, and we have a and it's a great experience. But that is my personality type. Some people don't like kids that much, and if you don't like kids, yeah, you probably shouldn't be a step parent because you're gonna abuse them.
okay. So I don't know. Okay, so here's the thing. Would you have married me if I came in and I just kept comparing you to their dad? And would you have married me if I would not foster a relationship between you and the kids, or if I stood in the way, like, because kids can be real snotty. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Would you have married me if you didn't feel supported by me? If you didn't,
No,
because
of
I set
course
the
not.
tone. And so this is what happens. You start to build up resentment and anger, and that's what I'm thinking is happening with this mother. I think that
Mm,
maybe underneath it, because she loves this man so much, she feels like she's being put into a position, that's this might not be necessarily fair to her, and she may have some anger and resentment there, and it's coming out to say, I want to get rid of this little girl. But maybe she doesn't really want to get rid of. Maybe she's talking out of frustration of a situation. So I don't know. I just want to at least lay out a scenario. I don't want to
By the way, she
demonize.
didn't say any of that. She didn't
Of
say
course, she doesn't.
she didn't say she just said that the little girl loves her daddy. That's all she said. She
Uh
didn't
huh.
say the daddy mistreats me, the daddy does this,
Mm-hmm.
and the little girl does that. She didn't say none of that. She just said, I
Mm-hmm.
don't like this little person walking around who looks like his ex.
Mm-hmm.
And I already know that I'm not the type of person who's going to treat the two kids the same.
Yeah.
That's what she
Yeah,
said.
I'm sure. But the thing is that therapy is so important, because sometimes you come in and you're just angry about something, and you really need someone to talk to about it, so you can try to get down to the root of it. So I'm trying to talk about what I've seen in my office in terms of, once we scrape the butter off the toast, I try to get down to the root of the problem instead of demonizing someone and trying to understand where they're coming from. You got to say, okay, tell me, how did this come about? Who told you that the love between a step um, child and a biological child has to be so different like that? And it can't. And maybe she can tell her story. Maybe
Mm,
she can say, you know what, when I was growing up, I was a stepchild and my stepfather treated me awful, and so I don't want that whole thing playing out into this scenario. So you never know how and why people come up with these things, and a lot of times you don't understand. That's why you go to therapy, so that you can have some insight into your behavior about why you do things. That's the first step. I mean, the second step is, of course, the therapy part, but part of it is the deconstructing that and constructing it back together. I do think that this family can have a happy life
mm.
together. I mean, she's pregnant. She's pregnant with him. I mean, it's worth a try to get down to the bottom of it. I refuse to believe that someone is 100% evil and bad and nasty. I don't believe that.
Well, yeah,
I believe that
and
this is a caring woman.
yeah, I don't see it as,
Mm-hmm.
this lady who's pregnant with so she's pregnant with his child. Though he's got the 5-year old who, is traumatized by her dead mother and is very close to the father. And she's saying, I don't think I could treat the kids the same. I really would like for his daughter to go so I can have a fresh relationship with this man, with my fresh new baby.
Yeah.
And I get that, right? I think that there is a lot to unpack there in
It is
therapy
a
and
lot.
everything else.
Hmm.
But the first thing to unpack is that relationship. To me, first thing
Yeah.
to unpack is meaning unpack, meaning dismantle. Like I would go to him if he was my friend. I'd be like, "Look, man, this I don't think this is going to be good unless something drastically changes." Because I see it so much as not so much her being a bad or good person, it's a preference. She reminds me of a lot of these guys who tell other men, "You don't want to be a stepdaddy. Stepdaddies are suckers." Like being a father or
Okay.
dating a woman with kids. Like only a fool would do that. I wouldn't want if I'm a mother with children, I would never want a man like that anywhere around my kids because they're gonna harm them. They're gonna
Hmm.
neglect them. They're gonna make because the children do nothing wrong. The children, all the kids know how to do is just be kids. They just sitting there. They don't know about all our craziness that we have as adults. So, ultimately, when I hear her talk, I've heard it before. I've heard men say that. I've heard men say, like, I don't really like this. I like the lady. She's good. She looks good, but I don't really like her kids. And the way I was raised was when my father married my mother, knowing that my mother already had me, um, you know, he understood we were a package. Period. Like that's how we were raised. It was like, no, if you and my mother told him, like, if you want me, you gotta want him too. You can't take me and ignore him. But there are some people who almost seem like they think that way. Like I can just take this part of you that's so important and dismantle it and get rid of it. And you're right though, maybe there's a way she can change. But I like the fact that she was honest enough
Hmm.
that you could say, okay, maybe this isn't for you.
Oh,
Maybe you need to be in another situation.
yeah. I don't know if I would dissolve the relationship necessarily. Now, I don't recommend that they get married under this dynamic.
Mm.
I do recommend that they postpone the marriage until we can sort all of that stuff out. But I definitely am not saying that. I think it's worth a try. So we try kind of looking at things from her perspective. Let's look at things from the father's from his perspective. What do you think is happening with him, boys? What do you think he would say?
I would, what I would ask the father? I would wonder, I'd be like, do you know what your wife just said? Or your future wife? They're about to get married. I would ask him, like, do you even know that she's even feeling this way? And then I would encourage them to just talk it out. And maybe they could talk it out with a therapist.
For
Because,
sure.
because the challenge, as you mentioned, is and the reason I would say, yeah, you might want to try to save the relationship is because she's pregnant, right?
Hmm.
So they kind of did things. Some would say traditionally it's out of order, right? You're supposed to get married and then have the babies, but whatever, people do what they do. So now if they break up, then now you've got like he's got two kids with two mamas.
Well, I'm not certain. Like, I'm trying to look at it from his perspective. Like, I'm not certain. He already lost someone important to him,
Mm,
and so I would have a conversation. Let me tell you, my mom had a friend. Oh my God. I'm going to share this story. My mom had a friend who married a man. Okay. By the way, the marriage did not last.
mm,
Okay. And, he had children, right? And so the mom died. Okay. So the
okay.
mom died, his wife died, and then he goes and he marries my mom's friend.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and he had pictures of this wife, the deceased wife. He had pictures of that deceased wife all through the house.
Mm,
And like she was like, okay, like I'm talking about life-sized portrait. There was like a shrine to this lady in this
right.
house. And I remember going over there and I was like, is that the lady that died? And she was like, yeah. So there was clothes of this lady in the house. There was all of her possessions. It was almost as if this lady had just disappeared and all of her belongings were left behind. There was no space for this new wife. Literally no space. And like the husband would not get rid of anything because how was he feeling? So he was feeling like he felt guilty. Like if I erase the memory of my children's mother, then I am disrespecting her memory. And there was no room for another person to come in because how do you again, his grief, and this is what I'm wondering if like it's unresolved grief. And at the same time, you want to be able to move on. That's what unresolved grief does. It keeps you stuck. And so he wanted to move on with this lady, but he couldn't. and then you end up losing yet another woman in your life. So maybe it's just like riddled with all of this loss and fear, and there's almost like a tear. I would think if I talked to this man that he would feel totally torn. We don't know the conditions or the reasons why this lady died, but maybe there's some guilt in there. Maybe there's feelings of insecurity for him. Maybe he feels like the best way to have a relationship with his daughter is just only going to be centered around the bio mom. And maybe he just feels guilty by letting this new lady into their sort of relationship and dynamic, because in some way um, he would be minimizing the life of the biological mother. We don't know, but I assume that for him, maybe there's some unresolved grief.
Could be. Okay,
Yeah.
so before we move on, I want to let you guys know you're listening to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. If you could take 1 second, please hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, share, subscribe. My wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins, is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. My PhD is in finance. And so our goal is to help all of you learn how to live drama free relationships, have drama free finances, and ultimately have a drama-free life. A lot of getting rid of the drama involves addressing the trauma, and trauma is heavy in the Black community, and we just want you to be happy. So also don't forget that this week, we'll be in Chicago on May 15th. We're gonna do a drama-free lifestyle generational wealth event. If you'd like to come check out that event. You can actually get passes. Get your pass online because we probably won't have any passes at the door. You can go to boyceandalicia.com to take a look there. Boyceandalicia.com. There we go. All right. So let me address some of what you said there, right? And again, I'm gonna give you. I can't really give. I can give a little bit of the Dr. Boyce perspective from what I know, but I don't know. I didn't study relationships. I studied finance, but I can give you more so the Uncle Boyce perspective. So there's no license behind it, no degrees, no nothing. Just point of view. So I hear that, right? And I get it. You move in somebody's house or you marry them and they've got baggage, and especially when people are over 30.
Oh,
Most
honey.
people are bringing baggage to a
Everybody
relationship.
got baggage.
Right, they're bringing either a divorce or a baby mama, baby daddy scenario, or maybe just the baggage that comes from traumatic experiences that they've had in their other relationships. You're Russell Wilson. You want to settle down with Sierra, and you got it. You're dealing with, baby Future. Who looks just like his raggedy daddy, right? That's crazy, right? Crazy, right? So here's what I would say though, right? Which ties into, and then sometimes you have the most extreme cases where you're dealing with a deceased spouse, which is on one hand, you know that they're never going to cheat with that person, but then on the other hand, you do have to compete with somebody who's dead, which is impossible to do. I would just say this: I think who um anybody who dates somebody who has a past has to accept the fact that you're gonna deal with that past.
Mhm.
And that your past might be everything from the fact that you had children with another person to a divorce where they're draining the family bank account. It could be your profession. You chose to become a police officer, and now I got to deal with the fact that you might die on the job. So I think that's where just critical decision making has to come into play. That if you get with somebody who has a past, you need to make sure you fully inform yourself on every aspect of that past and how it weighs into your present, or you need to walk away, right?
Mhm.
And some people do that. Some people say, look, I need everything to have a clean slate. And I get it. Now if your slate ain't clean, then that means you might be asking for something you're not offering yourself. Like a lot of the men who say, I would never date a woman with kids, these guys got credit problems and student loan debt,
Wait, hold on. And they got kids themselves
or
all
or
over.
or, or maybe.
Five, six
Right,
kids that even
right.
the kids they still responsible for.
Right. But still at the same time, it's their right to do that. To me, I'm like,
The
look,
double standard.
no, it might be a double standard, but I'm like Kevin Costner in Yellowstone, where he said, "There's no such thing as fair." And what do I mean by that? There's no such thing as fair in the sense that who am I to tell you that you don't have a right to decide you don't want to date a woman with kids? That's your right to do that. If you got it like that, Like if you got $1 million in your bank account and a penis made of gold, and you can make that choice, then go for it. But if you're not, but the people I talk to are the ones who are mad. Like you got, because you got some guys who are mad. Like all these women, they gold diggers and they want this and they want that. And I'm like, so you picking the wrong women, or you're not bringing enough to the table to make those women respect you. That's why you're mad. That's why you're in the manosphere complaining about women. We really need to be complaining about yourself. You need to be analyzing yourself, right? So my point is to say, look, everybody has a right to demand what they want, and different people can demand different things based on their situation. Like a job market, I might say I'm not going to take any job for less than 200,000 a year, but that might be unrealistic for somebody who has a different resume from me or who's in a different industry. So here's what I'm saying with this: the baggage is always there. Um, if you marry someone, and I'm speaking from a little bit from experience, you marry someone who has an ex spouse, no matter how much work that person might try to do to minimize the impact of the ex spouse, oh, the ex is there. That person is, you need to understand you're entering into a three-person situation, especially if their children are in your house.
Well, you're assuming if it was one. Sometimes you marry somebody and they got 5, 6 babies coming out of the woodwork, and then you
Yeah.
got to deal with all those scenarios and their
Yeah, if
mamas.
their mamas are
That's
around,
what's
yes.
happening.
If
It
their mom
goes both ways.
if they're yes, it does go
You're
both
like,
ways.
where'd that child
Yes,
come
yes,
from? Oh my
yes.
God, yet
So
another.
so I look at right. So I look at it whether or not your kids are adults or children.
Yeah.
Also, the amount of involvement of the other spouse. So let's talk about the living as opposed to the dead. If you talk about the living,
Mm-hmm.
if you got a spouse who says, "I got kids in your house, I'm going to be involved in what happens in that house," you're gonna have to deal with that, right?
Oh.
Now, if the spouse is dead, then you also have to deal with the fact that you're married. You're not marrying a person with a clean slate. You're marrying somebody who went through a traumatic loss, where they might still have some feelings for somebody else. The person's dead, but it's still there. And I would say that if you're not prepared to be compassionate enough to just say, you know what, I understand how you feel, and I love you so much that I'm willing to deal with that, then
Mm-hmm.
don't do it. Because I can imagine a case where a guy just or a woman just says, "I love this man so much, I care about him so much that even though I know that he has these feelings and he's working through his feelings over his ex-wife, I just want to be there with him to really help support him."
Mm-hmm.
Right. And a woman like that to me is a keeper. That's a woman who cares about you, who she doesn't just love you, she cares about you. There are some people who love you that don't care about you. They want to be next to you. They want to benefit from having you in their life. They want to get access to your money, but they don't really care about how you feel. And if
Wait,
you're
I don't get that. How do you love someone and not care about them? Isn't
easy,
that part of it?
easy, because I can love a car. I can love my.
Is that really
I got an
love?
outfit in my car in my closet that I really love, but I don't care about it. Yeah, you can love some. Like just think about it.
I don't know if I would.
Look,
That's not my definition
no,
of love, but I
love
guess.
love could be defined
Okay.
as a type of attachment. It's a
Oh,
it's
really?
yeah,
Okay.
it's a connection to something, right? So I
Okay.
can be connected to you. Like men, I've seen men say, "I really love that stripper. I love going to the club when that stripper's there, and I'll give her all my money." But he don't really care about it. Like if somebody,
Oh,
you
okay.
see what I
So
mean?
I see your definition of love. It's just almost like a word that we just kind of throw out there to say that we really want to possess something.
I
Because I
think
don't. Go ahead.
I've seen people use the word love a lot, and I don't, and I'll be like,
I don't know if
I
that's.
don't think you love that, you love her. But if you say I love that woman, but yet you would dump her if she got fat, that means you love her, but you don't care about her. Or I
Oh,
love that
okay.
man, but I would dump him if he upsets me, or if he loses his job, and I'm gonna leave him.
Ah.
Well, that means you love him, but to me, that doesn't mean you really care about him. Because if you care about somebody, you'll be with them when they're going through something, even if it's not convenient for you. Like if I love you, and if I think about it like this, I might have a woman I love. Let's say you have a man. I've seen men who have a woman they love, and let's say that she gets cancer, and they're not married, but she gets cancer. She's in the hospital. She's not attractive anymore, and she can't have sex. A lot of men will walk away from that. Those are men who'll be like, "Well, I loved you when you were healthy, and I could see you and go out with you, but I don't want to go that deep with you. I'm not really there on those terrible, difficult
Mhm.
situations." But a person who really cares about you is a person who says, "If you're going through pain, I'll go through the pain with you."
Okay. I'm not certain. I would call that love personally.
Hmm.
I think love to be true needs to be tested.
Mm.
And so what you're talking about is a scenario where you're testing someone's love to see is it really real because you're in an unfortunate situation. So I'm not certain that that's really love, but you're calling it love without care. I don't know, but I see what you mean. I kind of see what you mean.
Yeah,
You,
like I don't I believe you can't. I don't know. I To me, if you claim to love somebody and then you divorce them, but 2 years later, I would question whether you really love that person or really cared about that person.
okay.
If they, if now maybe you love them. Like love is like this attachment driven by these chemicals in your brain, oxytocin and phenylethylamine and dopamine and all that, right?
Uh-huh.
So you're attached to them, you're thinking about them all the time, you can't wait to see them. But then what happens if they just do something that upsets you and you're suddenly like, well, I don't love you anymore.
Huh.
That but
Okay.
they're saying I need you, and you're like, well, I don't love you, so sorry, you got to figure it out on your own.
Oh wow.
That to me is I've seen, you see it, and I don't think so. I don't think that loving someone means you care about them. Just like a lot of people love their kids, they don't care about them because they'll raise their
Wait, hold
children.
on.
There are people that love their kids. Like I need my kids. Like you take my kids, I'm gonna it'll kill me. But if you look at how they raise their children, like if you're raising your child in a way, for example, where they're so attached to you that they can't be independent because you're so scared of them leaving, or you raise your daughter to not appreciate and respect men, so she ends up lonely for the rest of her life. She doesn't know how to date a man. Or you raise your son to be your baby your whole life, so he never grows into a real man to know how to take care of a family. You loved your baby, but to me, you didn't care about him because you did not prepare him for life.
Yeah.
Caring about you means I want you to be good. I'll give you a perfect example to let me know that I love you and that I love you and I care about you. Remember we were talking about that movie where the guy had terminal cancer. It's an Apple movie. What was it called? Swan Song. Well, the guy had a terminal illness, and he had the option of cloning himself, and so that his wife would not have to deal with the pain of losing him. And we were talking about that, and you said, "Would you do that for me?" And I said, "Absolutely. I would totally like if I knew I was dying and I knew it would be painful for you, and I had the option of cloning myself and have a fake voice." Be here that's fully healthy that was there for you so you would not have to deal with the pain of my death, I would totally do that. And I said I would do that because I care about you. I'm not trying to possess you. I love you. And I think that those are just different levels of love. I think some people they think that because I want to be around you and I want to possess you and I want to have sex with you, that I really care about you. No, you don't care about the person. You're attached to them, but that don't mean you really care about them. Caring about something means that I will do what's best for you, even if it's not in my best interest. That's a very rare kind of love. And if you find it, I encourage you to hold on to that.
I want to go back to how we all have baggage in our relationships. Okay. How we all, when we have a relationship, we all have baggage. And I think with this scenario, because I'm bringing us back to our original topic, um, I think with this scenario, you do need to. Now, I do think that you don't have to have all of your issues sorted out before you get into a relationship. I'm not one of those people who believe that way. I do think that you can work a lot of your issues out through your relationships. But I think you owe it to the next person that you date to fully resolve any of the previous conflictual situations happening in your life. Before you get into a relationship with a new person, you owe it to them to come to terms with the fact that you have to terminate with previous relationships in order to move on, even if that person is deceased. You need to kind of, before you get back into a relationship again, and this is even with divorce, or if the death of a spouse, no matter whatever, that loss, um, coming to terms and to grips with the dynamic of that loss of that loved one, and really being whole in the sense where you've kind of sorted out what happened in that relationship, the guilty feelings associated with ending a relationship before you move on, and all of that, because bringing a new person into a scenario where you haven't quite moved on from old scenarios is not fair to them either. And so I just would advise for people, Um, to just kind of think about that before you get into a relationship. Another thing that I would advise people is that people have these, it just kills me how people have these long list of criteria. You talked about what criteria and standards do you have, do you see in a person? I heard you mention that a few points ago, and I'm just like, wow, all these people in these big old lofty criteria, those are the people who are just single. They never
Yeah.
can have, it's almost like you meet somebody and you got this long checklist and you're like, do you check these boxes? And if you don't, you must go away. It's just like I kind of feel like you need to take all that entire list and look at each one and try to figure out, why is that so important to you? Why is the all of the items on the list so important to you? And if you meet someone that doesn't adhere, I have to have someone with a college degree. Well, what is it about the college degree that makes you want to be in a relationship with that? Is it just that because maybe you have this understanding that having a college degree means you're intelligent? Well, no, you can find intel. So intelligence might be the list, the item on the list, instead of having a college degree. That's not the demarcation. But I'm just I'm just really curious about single people, and you talk to them about why they're not in a relationship. And a lot of them have this long list of criteria. And if you don't fit this list, you can't, don't be around me. And so I question that a lot.
Yeah, I think that it's I think that picking out a relationship, it's you can think of it like a lot of different things. I mean, I'm an economist. I think of things in terms of markets. And what people don't understand is that dating is a market, just like the stock market or the job market. And the reality is that, you know, you could think of dating, for example, like going to eat at a restaurant. If you go eat at a restaurant, you know, you can say, look, I want a restaurant of a certain type. I want an Italian. I want, Chinese. I want a fish, a seafood restaurant, but you can't pick the menu in that restaurant. You can't pick how they serve you the food. You can't pick how they cook the food. They give you a little bit of leeway. They can let you kind of say, oh, okay, don't put
Hmm.
any salt on it or add some extra lettuce or whatever. But for the most part, the restaurant is going to be what it's going to be, and the prices are going to be what the prices are. And so you can't go into a restaurant and ask them to change the prices or ask them to redesign the restaurant to your specifications or demand that you eat at a restaurant that has exactly 14 chairs with purple walls and and it's playing the Isley Brother music in the background. Like you can't necessarily, because if you do that, you'll be looking for the rest of your life. The way we generally pick food is we
I
say,
agree with that. That makes sense to me.
"Oh,
It's just
thank you."
like come on. And even with a maid, it's just like, come on. Do we have to have 14 chairs? Like, why is 14 chairs important? For
Right.
me to give you a chance to get to know you as a person. I think that's what I'm trying to I'm trying to like talk about. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, like and
Hmm.
that's my thing. Like I put restaurants in general categories. Either the food is good or it's not. Um, is it good for, is it a fair price or it's not? Is it the style of restaurant that I want or is it not? So I might say, I want to go eat at this Italian restaurant because the prices are fair and the food is good. Boom, I'm in there. I'm there.
Yeah.
I all the things that don't matter much. Like there's not a difference between whether they have 14 chairs in the restaurant or 28 chairs, or or what the color of the walls are. That's not as important as the overall question, which is the food worth the price?
Yeah. I
You
like
know,
that.
does the good outweigh the bad? And that's how I look at dating. Like when I wanted to be with you, it was like I already came into the relationship knowing that there's probably gonna be a lot of things about the situation that maybe I would change if I could, but
Hmm.
you can't.
Yeah.
The situation is what it is, and so I just looked at the things I liked about you, and I subtracted the things I didn't like, and again, just like math, and if the numerator is bigger than the denominator, or if the first number is bigger than the second number, then it's a good situation to go into. It's a positive, or like business, you're going to have losses, you're going to have expenses. Does your revenue exceed your expenses? If so, you have a profit. If it's the other way around, then you have a loss and you got to bounce. Or maybe
Hmm.
that's not the situation for you. So
Hmm.
ultimately, people that have long lists, I really think deep down,
You think they're
they
scared? Do you think it's fear,
I
or what
think
do you think it
well, I
is?
think it's definitely fear of making a mistake. maybe a lack of strategy, maybe some bad advice.
They don't trust themselves.
Yeah, and also
Mhm.
remember sometimes when you go into a market, like if you go into a job market and you find yourself constantly unemployed, it could be because you've misassessed the market. Maybe you're asking for you're demanding and expecting a pay rate that does not fit your qualifications. And this is where Kevin Samuels could be somewhat beneficial because he did kind of throw it out there like, if you're not bringing XYZ to the table, why would you expect ABC 1, 2, 3? But where I disagree with Kevin tremendously was when he would make sort of very blanket statements like, "Oh, you got kids, ain't no man gonna want you because you got."
Or you,
I
because
heard him
you're
say that to
over
the lady.
30, you're over 35, so you just use
Yeah,
goods.
you're over 35, so you're what do you call it? Leftovers.
Leftovers.
Like
That's
that's
just
just well,
crazy.
that's shock jock language, and that language was
Yeah.
designed to get attention. That language was designed to rile up and make women mad. And I wish there was a better way to say it, um, because I think you could make a legitimate argument to say that when it comes to certain aspects of attractiveness, um, you know, we have our peaks. Let's just say that. If you look at just straight up physical beauty, a lot of women who are in their 50s, feel like they were prettier in their 20s. But that doesn't mean a woman in her 20s is always better than a woman in her 30s and 40s. Because there's also another type. As I got older, I noticed that I got to a point, honestly, where I wouldn't date a woman under 35. Where I was like, when I got to my 40s, I said, I want to date a grown up. I want to date a woman who's got some substance to her. And a lot of the younger girls, sure, yeah, when you're famous, 25-year-olds might run up and offer you things. I was like, I don't want to deal with that stuff. I'm not trying to do romper room. Like this is not a Pokemon competition. Like I'm not trying to play these little kid games with you. I want a grown ass woman. I want a woman that I can relate to. So I think that with that providing a statement like that without nuance, that was the part where I was like, come on, man, can't we have a deeper conversation about this? Or
Hmm.
cutting people off. That was another thing he did a lot where
He
like
did.
the woman would start her sentence and he wouldn't even let her finish it. And
Hmm.
again, that was for entertainment value. And I just wish he had done that a little bit differently. What's wrong with letting her finish her sentence? you know and I think that that's where you draw the toxicity, right? You draw the toxic individuals who enjoy watching you chop somebody down and cut them off and put them in their place. It's like, no, I ain't gotta put you in your place to let you know where I stand.
Yeah, he clearly was working out his issues with women, with the working out his issues with women in general, with the women who called into the show, I think. Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly. Well, speaking of, it was interesting, Kevin Samuels has a mother, and his mother, do you know she found out that he died from the internet?
I saw that.
That is
Yeah.
a terrible way to find out that your son died.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
So
The internet's
that's a
brutal.
problem. My goodness. That
Yeah.
is a problem. Hmm.
Yeah. And RIP, I mean, RIP to Kevin, right? Like I think,
Did he have children? He had children, right?
I assume he did, but I never
We
heard
don't
anything about
know.
his kids. You never heard about his kids, you never heard about his own family.
Okay. Well, whatever it is, I
And
guess they're
and I think that's an interesting thing too. I think that
Mhm.
people, as we reflect on his legacy, I think, you know,
Legacy, really?
he's got a legacy, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
he was known around the world.
Okay. Yeah,
He had a
yeah,
lot. He
you're
had a
right.
lot of.
You're right.
There were people that knew of him, right? He had impact. Let's
He
just say
does
that.
have a legacy, yeah.
But I think there is a difference. Um, I think there's a difference in getting relationship advice from a single who wants to mingle, like a player, like a man who's like, here's how you go and get sex or whatever, versus getting advice from, say, a family man. Like a
Hmm.
family man who values his children or values his relationships or values his woman or has a woman by his side is very different from getting advice from a man who, dies in the arms of a one night stand.
Oh boy.
And I know that sounds cruel to say it, but I say it like it is with that because Kevin said it like it is. He told it like it is. So to me, if you could dish it out, then you should be able to take that. And the reality is that that's a little embarrassing. Like I
Hmm.
died with a woman. I died from something, I don't know, something related to the heart. And with a woman that I met yesterday who spent the night at my house. If that's not a lesson, if that's not a goddamn lesson for these young guys, I don't know what is. Because you're 57, bro. You're
57, still
57,
trying
right?
to be like,
Right. I'm sorry, I cut you off. I apologize.
you know, yeah, he's 57 and he's still
Yeah,
playing
you
like he
can't.
is
This is the reality.
putting a
People,
notch in his belt.
yeah, people don't talk about this, but it's true. You can't live at 57 like you did when you was 27, dude. So the 27-year-olds are getting
Mhm.
advice from the 57-year-olds who's trying to be a 27-year-old.
And that's the thing. Like people who've had a traumatic past, a lot of times have an arrested development. They're still operating from the age in which they experienced their trauma. And
Mm,
so for a lot of times, a lot of men who can't grow up,
mm.
and take responsibility, and you got two ex-wives in your pocket, you have all of these scenarios. It just tells me about how you failed as a grown-up in a sense.
Well, I would call it.
and and
I wouldn't call
and
it failure.
well, a failed marriage is in a way kind of like a failure, in a way, not in a failure like you are a failure, but a failure in this situation did not work out. And it is important to kind of take accountability for your part in that. You played a part in that,
Well, I do.
and to be able to see that, and then you can tell how people resolve some of those things based on how they behave. And so he's still behaving like someone not as evolved as another man who can take responsibility for a family and so forth.
Well, you know what I
Hmm.
would say. I am a believer in personal responsibility. I believe that
Okay.
whatever happens to you, you're best off if you find the reasons that your behavior might have contributed to your outcome, right? What did you do
Yeah.
that helped put you in that situation, right? So I think, um, so yeah, I mean, if you look analyze Kevin's life, okay, two divorces, stuff like that, yes, but remember, most people are getting divorced now,
They
right?
are. They
So
really are.
I wouldn't look at and we don't know the circumstances of the divorce, so you can't put all that on one person, on
Yeah, I
him.
agree. I
But
agree.
I do think at the same time, my big question at the end of the day for anybody, if you're getting advice on dating or what you want to do with your life, is are you happy with the outcomes of your choices? There's some areas I don't get advice on, and the reason I don't want advice is because I'm happy with the outcome. The only time I ask for help is when I want something I can't have yet, that I haven't figured out how to get. Like I
Hmm.
want to make, $20 million. I don't know how to do that. How do I do that? Give me solutions. But
Hmm.
if you say, "Boyce, I'm gonna give you advice on how to be happy as a dad," I might listen. I probably won't though, because I'll be like, "No, I'm actually quite happy.
You're happy with
I'm
the
I'm
scenario.
happy with the relationship I have with the children.
Hmm.
I'm happy with where or if somebody said, "Boyce, I want to teach you how to be a vegan," I'd be like, "That doesn't help me because I don't want to be a vegan." Like I'm happy. I ate some Twizzlers yesterday, and I'm happy I did.
Are you
What?
really happy you ate all that candy?
Yes, yes. If I ever decide I want to do something different, then I'm going to seek out different advice. But right now, I don't need help learning how to eat Twizzlers.
Okay. Well, I
You know,
mean, what about if someone had diabetes
now there,
and they sat and ate a
yeah.
bunch of Twizzlers?
Now that is
You'd be
now
like,
that's
hold on, time out.
now that is another issue too. And so
So you're doing what makes you happy, but you're developing diabetes, boy. Come on. you know.
now that's it, right? So
But
then
you're just like, forget it. This makes me happy, and I'm gonna keep doing it. And I'm like,
uh,
okay.
the next question becomes, you know, um, how much do you care that you're developing diabetes? Like, because for some people, if you tell them, "Hey, if you keep doing this, you won't have any healthy relationships." Some people don't care. Some people are like, "I don't care
They don't really
as long
care.
as I'm getting the sex I want. I don't really care if I have healthy relationships or not." So I've seen people like that. But then there's some people who really want to have healthy relationships, and that's just what it is. And so let's see. Queen Esquire says he's trying to be the next Kevin Samuels. No, baby, I'm trying to be the one and only Boyce Watkins. So yeah, so you can put that in your pocket. King T, Boyce, you're a real one. Okay, and thank you very much. Let's see. Who really knows Lorna? Who really knows what went down in that room? And Kevin Samuels is that
Yeah.
woman.
Who
She's the
knows?
only one telling her story. That is true.
That
That's true.
is.
Nobody knows, right? Nobody knows, and but that's the thing, nobody knows, right? So even the people who say nobody knows, they don't know either. And all they know is, you know, like now if there's proof to the contrary, like if there's proof that the lady's lying, then then show the proof.
Why would she lie?
Right. She's like, I don't even know this man. I met him yesterday and he died in the room. Now, what would make me curious is like, was there something that spurred on the heart attack, or was it just a bad luck? Like that. I'd be curious about that. But overall, I think it's I can't lie. There's a massive amount of irony
Oh,
in the
yeah.
fact that I watched Kevin rise. I was so impressed, honestly, with the way he responded. If I followed closely, like when he first blew up, because Kevin he'd done a whole video about me before, and I didn't even know about it because Kevin's platform wasn't that big. But then Kevin did that video where he told the lady she was going to die alone. And I watched, whenever I see a controversy, I watch how people respond. Because I think anybody who runs a business and you understand branding, you'll kind of know that there's lessons everywhere to pay attention to. So I was like, I wonder how he's going to respond to this because they are really going at him. And I said, if he's smart, he'll understand that typically almost any publicity is good publicity. And he'll spin it in a way that works for him. And Kevin spun it brilliantly. What he did was he didn't run away from the
He
controversy.
just doubled down on the
He
abuse.
quadrupled down
Yeah.
on the theme behind he used the algorithms. What he did was the fact that they said he told the lady she's going to die alone. He did like 10, 15 videos with the term "die alone" in the title.
Ah, so he's got
He's
marketing smarts. He
he
had
was
marketing
he was
smarts.
like, I'm gonna eat this
Hmm.
up because his numbers were like through the roof. His subscriber rate was so people don't understand that. They think this is the thing about cancel culture that people don't get. This is a little business lesson for y'all. This is where cancel culture is losing. Cancel culture became actually a weapon against the people trying to use cancel culture to cancel somebody. They didn't understand that when you try to cancel somebody,
You making
they
them
you
more
make them
relevant.
bigger. You make them more relevant. You
Uh-huh.
get more people talking about them.
Should we cancel? Because the question becomes, should we cancel you or not? And
Right.
that's great as long as you're on our in our mind, in my mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They tried to cancel Kevin Samuels, and what they actually did was they gave him the biggest platform ever.
Uh-huh.
And so then Kevin, he did a really good job in his way of leveraging that attention. I didn't agree with the approach though. I mean, I told you I didn't a lot of his ideas I didn't subscribe to, but I didn't hate everything he said. But some of the stuff I'd be like, you probably could have said that a little bit nicer, or
Well,
maybe
but saying it nicer doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to get you the views. If
yeah,
he's
right.
really interested in the views, I mean, we know that um, you could be a much larger platform on your large platform if you were just going to go out and say a bunch of sensational things just to get clicks.
That's
But you
true.
don't,
Well, the
you know.
sensationalism works. The imagery also
Uh
worked.
huh.
He was very smart about. He always wore that black suit. That was his brand,
Uh
the
huh.
black suit, and he always appeared in the suit. He had his office set up a certain way. He even had the little spinning thing on his table, which he was. That told me he's smart enough to know
Hypnotize
that that was
people.
it. He was. Yeah, you put people in a trance when you
Yeah.
put something like that, like the ticking clock or the whatever, like on your desk. It makes people just sit there and they go into like a trans, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're an expert in the subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The colors mean something. How he delivers. Yeah, all of that. All of
Yeah,
that means something. The imagery.
yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and but I do think that it's sad though because he was also a reflection of the toxicity on the
Oh,
internet.
for sure.
In that the internet tends to reward people who promote dysfunction or
Mm-hmm.
accelerate dysfunction.
It's so interesting because I see it as a scientist, the internet, and there's a lot of people who blew up on the internet by dissing other people. And
Yeah,
it's really interesting because I'll go to their page just out of curiosity and just say, okay, this video is not a diss video. This is like a normal video and look at the views and whatever.
yep.
So it's really sensational. Like we do like the drama on the internet. It's
Well,
like, give me some popcorn. Let me
well,
see what's happening.
I've seen people build whole entire platforms off of "I hate Boyce
Oh
Watkins."
yeah. Well, I didn't want to mention that, but for
Yeah, yeah.
sure.
Or people who when you and I got married, there was a whole guy. There was a guy who built a whole YouTube channel where he kept talking about our wedding, and
Ooh.
why I was a simp for getting married. Like he built his whole platform off of that, and I said, man, there must be a lot of simps in the manosphere, a lot of wimpy, weak men who literally get off on watching another man get mad because another man is successful and happy.
Was it
Like
did
that's
his
like,
platform take off? Like, was it good?
yeah, he has like 80,000 subscribers. It's like the hater verse. That's what we ought to call it, the
The
hater verse.
haterverse?
Yeah, when you can't win at nothing, and so you just literally sit back and you just hate on people that you think are winning, and that's what he did.
Ah, and just make stuff up.
Yeah, the hater verse is big. shoot, that's the new. But you know what's interesting on a more serious note is you got to think about the message that's being sent to our children, right? Because the kids grow up thinking that they want to. The children grow up thinking they want to be successful by being rich and famous. And what's sad about life and what we need to teach people is that being rich and famous um, is only good in certain contexts.
And
Sometimes,
it's a pipe dream too.
well, sometimes the price for fame and wealth is very high,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you know, and one example is that girl. Remember that girl, Catch Me Outside? How about that? Who's on Dr. Phil? She did
Yes.
Catch Me Outside. So she created an OnlyFans where she
Mm-hmm.
now gets naked for people for subscribers, and she made $53 million last year. And she showed a picture of the receipt of her tax return or something on the internet. And I just hate the idea that you can have children, um, watching that, thinking that this is a model of success.
Well, hopefully the children are watching us and how what we do every day.
Well,
You know.
I kind of think that, um, you know, um, I really think that it's like, why not have balance? I think that's what it is, right? Like you can have balance in your life and still be successful. I've been able to make money. You're successful, you're a professional, you're very good at what you do, you love your work. We both really love what we do,
Yeah.
and we made some money and stuff like that, but we didn't have to go do degrading things to do it. And I think that's a good lesson for children. Like, like,
Mhm.
okay, sometimes you can go with the ridiculousness a little bit, but when it gets too far, that's when you got to stop. You got to say, okay, I'm losing my dignity here. I'm
Mhm.
I'm hurting people here. And I think that's the problem with the internet, is that there's some people who don't have those boundaries at all.
Yeah, I think when you go to sleep at night, you got to be able to tell yourself, "I done good today," and not, "Oh, I kicked up a whole lot of mess today." You
Yeah,
want to be happy with yourself,
absolutely. So I
and
think that.
and you for sure want to be happy with yourself when you go to the big sleep. When you
Oh
when you
well,
go
shit.
when you go and you transition into another world, it's like, did I fulfill my purpose? That's why I'm here
Well, look,
on this earth.
Richard Knox says something nice. He says, "Salute to Dr. Boyce. I've been watching you for years. I learned a lot from you. Even went to get my MBA because you inspired me to do so." Man, I am so proud of you right now, Richard
Yeah.
Knox. Man, God bless you, brother. God bless you, and God bless everybody who
It's a
is
lot of love
is.
for you,
Well, you know
boys.
what? It ain't about love for me per se, and I appreciate it though. I really want it to be about love for like us, as a community. Like I think Black people, we are. This is a good way for us to, I think, finish the conversation. But like Black people, we are so awesome. We are brilliant. We are extraordinary. We are entirely capable. We when we are at our best, we are the best. Period. And I just really want everybody to be happy and successful and go for what is yours, and I appreciate the kind words, but I really want this flip back to you, to seeing you um become the superhero in your own life. That's what it is. Like Richard Knox, man, you inspired me just now when you said that, brother, because that keeps me going. That's the fuel in my tank, and I want to be the fuel in your tank, so we can fuel each other up and lift each other up.
Hmm.
And then also I think we should just also remember to lift our mothers up. I mean, it's Mother's Day, man, and I just really, think. I mean, except for in extreme circumstances, I just can't ride with anybody that isn't putting respect on the name of the Black mother in America. You know,
Hmm.
I think that there are lots of conversations that have to be had about all different things going on in our community, but at the very least, those conversations have to start with a certain amount of respect for the fact that without our mothers, we would not be here at all. We can't survive without our
Hmm.
mothers. You can't survive without the Black woman. You can't be pro Black and anti Black woman, anti Black mother, and I would encourage the real men in the
Hmm.
room to stand on that.
Yeah.
Like, look, okay, you know what, you can feel how you want to feel, say what you want to say, but there's a point where we're going to draw the line in the sand and say this is not acceptable.
Yeah, I think you make good sense, and I think I started today by talking about trying to have an understanding for people. And I think when you build your platform on taking down and talking really negative and really treating Black women who call Black mothers, a lot of them are mothers who call into the show and make them feel like they're less than because they're a mother. Making them feel they're calling in, they're looking for love. All of us are looking for love. I think that's a problem. And the black woman is the based on what we know on mitochondria DNA, it's the black woman that's the beginning of all civilization. Wouldn't you
Mm.
agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
What was the name of that first?
Lucy.
Lucy. Yeah.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lucy in Ethiopia.
Was it Ethiopia?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's right. If I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. I hope I didn't get that wrong. But
Well,
um, but anyway, guys, we are about to go and hang out with our mothers today. And happy Mother's Day to every mama out there. Tell your mama I say happy Mother's Day from Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia. And also, if you want to join us in Chicago, you can go to boyceandalicia.com. I'm actually going to try to make it available virtually for those of you that don't live in Chicago. So go to boyceandalicia.com, sign up. We'll send you some free resources on how to create a drama-free lifestyle. And also, we have a Black Love Challenge. We have a lot of things you can do that can improve your life, and it's free. So go to boyceandalicia.com. You can find out about the event in Chicago. It's adults only. It's on May 15th. And also, we can I'll send you a link if we can are able to make it available virtually. We're working on setting up a virtual version of the event as well. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you, and happy Mother's Day.
yeah, happy Mother's Day. Goodbye, everyone.
All right, bye bye.